Thank you for joining me. My name is Kevin Martin. I'm here with the Lake Erie Regional Grape Program's weekly podcast update. Today we are going to talk about something besides labor. So I've actually gotten a number of questions about it, and I think probably because January 1st has come and gone, some individuals are realizing that they need to do some things. But we do have plenty of other podcasts and other materials you can reference if that is a burning question in your operation right now. For today, I did want to discuss some pesticide prices. It seems like a few growers did purchase in December, but a lot of growers are starting to make pre-orders now. They wanted these expenses to be in the 2020 tax year. And we have seen in the past where particularly some of the more expensive products are hard to come by during the growing season. So pre-orders make a lot of sense, both in terms of supply and price. So we're seeing some growers start to put together a plan, which obviously should remain flexible going into the growing season to try to get sort of their core materials purchased, especially the ones they're going to use early in the season. So for the most part, the news is fairly good. Particularly in the market for more expensive materials, those higher priced materials in general, there have been some that have fallen in price. The news is a little bit less good on some of the less expensive materials, probably related to the cost of trucking and the fact that some of these materials are starting to become specialty products because they're producing less of them as they're used less, these older inexpensive materials, and because we are starting to see some growers rely on higher rates of these materials, the cost of some things have gone up a little bit. We have basically across the board, insecticide prices have fallen, at least in terms of the important insecticides that relate to our major pests. So for fighting grape berry moth and for fighting grape rootworm, we're going to see a little bit of a savings there. EBDC, there's been some downward price pressure on that as well, for whatever reason. I don't think we necessarily need to get into the why, but certainly in the neighborhood of $1 or $2 less per pound than it was in previous years, and I think it probably $3 or $4 less than it was when it peaked, when there was a bit of a shortage. Everybody remembers that shortage. Some people switched to Captan for a year. Some people have stuck with Captan as a material that they go to. We can recommend that for the first spray. It's a little bit weaker on black rot, but if you are using like an 80 WP, so the materials like that, they are a little bit cheaper than the EBDCs. Not enough to really get super excited about. We do tend to use lower rates in those earlier sprays, so if you're saving $1 per pound, it's a whole lot less pounds that you're saving, and we can't recommend it later on because of the issues with black rot that arise when you rely too heavily on Captan. In terms of the prices being lower for some of the more expensive materials, one of the highlights there would be Endura. The current price I see is $23 per acre, but I've heard rumors that it's available for less than that. I just haven't been able to contact the local suppliers yet, so it sounds like that may be under $20 an acre this year, which places it right in line with the price of Vivando, and it's probably most certainly a better material in Concords than Vivando, just because it is so new. It's a new chemistry. Well, it's a very old chemistry, but it's new to Concord growers because it wasn't very long ago that it was $40 or $50 an acre, and you guys weren't spraying that. The price of Admire Pro has also fallen a little bit. It doesn't really have anywhere to go. We can only save so much on Admire Pro because it is so inexpensive. So that was around $2.50 an acre, and it can be had for as little as $1.83 per acre now. So just interesting, I think, in the sense that we do see some of these prices decreasing. Obviously, $2.50 an acre was so inexpensive that you're not really going to see a change in profitability by spending $1.75, but I suppose every little bit counts. Quintec in general, we are seeing the price of that slowly climb, mostly due to the fact that more and more growers are using higher and higher rates. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if it's necessary. I do know we have according to our experts like Brian Head, we do have better materials than Quintec. And so there is a place, I think, for Quintec to be used in a rotation, but it's not going to be in the pre-bloom or the post-bloom period if you are trying to, get 10 or 12 tons ripe like we have in the past few years. Or whatever you define as a very large crop, and you're trying to protect a really significant amount of value on your vines. We get into a frost year and things look ugly. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. But if that happens, then maybe Quintec restores its place somewhere more prevalently in the mix. But at this time, we see a lot of guys spending $20 an acre on Quintec anyway. So at that point, I don't see where it makes a lot of sense except for resistance management. Copper continues to become a force to be reckoned with in terms of it all but disappeared from use and now it's back. It's a good product to protect leaves in August in terms of a cost perspective, in the sense that it does a good job for a really long time and it doesn't have a really great place elsewhere in your spray program. So the issue is it can cost anywhere from $5 to $15 per acre depending on what type of material you are using. At the lower end, at $3 or $4 an acre, it's great stuff. You might need to mix hydrated lime with it, which can be quite a hassle. And then insecticide use becomes questionable if you are trying to target that third generation of berry moth. But you can do it for less than $5 an acre. So if you don't need the insecticide, you're in good shape. If you do, some of the more expensive materials might be a better fit. A lot of growers are starting to use copper at lower rates that are more active. Those do cost more. And make sure you check the label and make sure you're not putting yourself at risk for any phyto issues with the use of copper in Concords. But that being said, it's a fairly inexpensive material that again does have its place in a rotation. Belt is probably another one to highlight. We've seen the price of that's been about cut in half. If it is legal to use, it won't be for long. So if you've got it, use it. It is still available on the market. They are not allowed to manufacture it, and it won't be allowed to be applied in the future. So I'm sure that's why that price has come down. It is now cheaper than Ulticor. It's about the same price as Leverage 360. There are a few other important materials I haven't been able to get prices for yet. But in general, what I would say is your prices this year should be the same or less than they were last year. If it is a frost year and you are trying to save a lot of money by using less expensive materials, it may actually be a little more expensive than last year because, like I said, with Quintec and Xyram and some of the less expensive materials coming up in price, we're starting to see a whole lot of materials that we use push towards $20 an acre. Whether they're pushing down towards 20 or up towards 20, it seems like pretty soon a whole lot of the things that we use are all going to cost $20 an acre. So switching around materials for purposes of cost savings, those opportunities still exist. There are just less of those opportunities. A big material last year as a substitute for Endura was Luna Experience. The price of that does appear to be at least a little bit higher, if not the same. Basically, it was anywhere from $25 to $35 per acre last year, and the inexpensive sources of those materials seems to have gone away, so everybody's in that $29 to $34 per acre. It's essentially the same mode of action as Endura, so probably less of a debate about which one you're going to use. I think most people, if they want to include that mix, will switch to Endura if that price does in fact fall below $20 an acre. So a little bit of a decision made for you, and try to decrease the complexity of all these decisions you've got to make. So in terms of an overall total cost, I think we're aiming for around $150 to $160 per acre for your disease and insect management. Obviously, this is going to vary considerably based on your localized pressure and the decisions you choose to make. But what I would say is you can have a really good program for $160 to $175 an acre that puts you in a really good position to ripen a very large crop. If that's not the condition you're in, because of some adverse weather events or a variety of other factors, or you have a ridiculous amount of pressure in one area, whether it's black grout or powdery, you may have to push the envelope a little bit in terms of price. But that's what your disease and insecticide management is going to cost in that situation. We could see it fall by about $40 per acre if you're trying to target something a little more low cost and ripen a little bit less fruit. So then you're in the neighborhood of $125 an acre, and anything below $100 per acre is probably not going to be robust enough to be sustainable at all. So what we're really looking at in terms of margins is deciding whether or not you should spend $100 an acre or $175 an acre. So at this point, we're really talking about just one part of a ton, not a whole ton, of grapes devoted towards a more robust spray program, which I think is good news for you guys in terms of trying to make these decisions and investments in large crops a little bit easier for you. I haven't gotten a chance to take a look at herbicide prices yet. That's a little more complicated as we have people who switch back and forth between post and pre-emergent controls, so you should see your costs in that area bounce around quite a bit more from year to year, unless you do some sort of rotation where you always have pre-emergent in certain vineyards and then you rotate block to block, so you're always doing a little bit of both. But those costs do vary considerably whether you're in a pre or post-emergent kind of strategy this year. We'll take a look at that over the next couple of weeks and provide an update in terms of price where things are trending in that area as well. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about some of these specific prices or questions about anything in general, please comment below or give us a call. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.